Hello and welcome to the Oddschecker podcast. This is the latest Glorious Goodwood Preview podcast. This is the Friday pod. We preview Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday already. Probably not much point listening to Tuesdays back, given that we are recording this at midday on Wednesday, just before racing starts on Wednesday. But if you haven't heard Thursdays yet and Thursday racing hasn't happened, then please do find that on all podcast platforms and on our YouTube page. I am your host, George Ellick, and I'm joined, as ever, by Oddschecker's very own tipster, Andy Holding. Andy, busy week for you with Goodwood and Galway. How's it started?
Yeah, fairly well. I'd give myself probably a 6 or 7 out of 10. Goodwood early days yet. Just had the one day. Once I had a couple of near misses, a couple of my selections didn't run up to scratch. Claire de Lune's a bit disappointing in the fillies race, but Galway's been a bit better. I had a strong view on a horse called Champs-Élysées yesterday. Johnny Murtaugh's horse, backed him from 5-1 into sort of 2-1 and got the job done in devastating fashion. Had a nice win on the first day. I can't remember what it was now, but it was a decent win. It was a decent winner anyway.
So many winners, Andy.
Lots of horses that have run well without winning. So Galway at the moment is definitely my favourite track over Goodwood. But for this podcast purposes, we hope that changes.
Fingers crossed we can reverse the form, let's say. Before we get into the racing, as ever, just want to point you in the direction of the Oddschecker app, the best place for all the best prices, the best bookie offers, free bets, and the very best tipsters as well, including the man I am on a Zoom or Skype call with at the moment. Let's get into Friday's racing. As I mentioned, it is midday on Wednesday when we are recording this, so 48-hour final decks are in. The markets are kind of reforming as we're going, so do bear with us. And I'm afraid, obviously, these prices, once the final runners are in, can be pretty volatile. But fingers crossed, the value that Andy sniffs out will still be there by the time you can digest what he's saying. The 110, which is the handicap, the just over a mile and 3 furlongs. The 110 isn't priced up yet. Neither of the last 2 races of the day. But we'll touch upon them as we have done in the other podcasts and videos, just to see if there are any final, any of the horses that will be running who catch Andy's eye and who you can look out for a price for when they do open up. So Andy, in that first race, the 110, any that you're going to be keenly looking out for?
Well, William Haggas is a past master at getting these potential group horses in waiting handicapped. What he tends to do, run them in maidens, and then he runs them in novice races. In very small events, he either takes them up north. He runs a lot of horses in the north, and they pot hunt and they win at odds on. And even when they've got a handicap mark of, let's say, in the mid-70s, he goes and runs them in those races, knowing that the handicapper can't do a great deal with them, even if they win. And he knows that a lot of horses in behind them aren't looking necessarily to be getting anywhere near him, so they're not going to affect his mark. So he's very, very cute at this. And he's got a horse, Alcarca, who on debut finished 4th behind Kinross in that maiden that everyone was eulogising about. Obviously, Kinross himself has gone on to run well in Group Company this season, and many others down the line, including Vatican City, ran in that particular race. And this lad finished 4th. So straight away, he's probably thinking, I've got a group horse here. And he very much campaigned him in that way that I mentioned William Haggas does, running him in novice stroke maiden events. A novice event last time at Newmarket, only a 4-5 runner field, but he did it really well. Even though it was only a small field, he clocked a very fast time. So he's obviously got a very good engine. He's a big striking, imposing colt that I think will get better in time. He's got a mark of 88. So the handicapper did actually adjust his mark because that win at Newmarket, but not by the amount that you'd think would stop him winning off 88. And he looks, like I said, dare I say, a pattern race performer in the making. So I think if you're one of the other connections, you've got to feel as though you've got some serious amount of poundage in hand to be beating a horse like that in a race of this nature. So I'd imagine he'd be chalked up favourite as well. So
one to look out for, Alcarca, Andy's favourite on his tissue. Have a look. Maybe the bookies will disagree and you can snaffle some value when the betting opens up, probably around 5 o'clock on Thursday evening, normally about that time the day before. On now to the main stuff, the stuff which we do have prices for and we can preview in a little bit more depth. As I say, we're recording this just after midday, so the prices are kind of coming in thick and fast. But at the moment, in the we've got the St Clair Oak Tree Stakes, the fillies and mares race over 7 furlongs, and One Master is the 2-1 favourite. That is with William Hill Breathtaking Look, second favourite at 6-1. Althika, 8-1. Valeria Messalina, 9-1. 14-1 Bar. At the moment, 13 run here. Andy, which ones do you fancy at the prices?
Well, there's no doubt that One Master's the right favourite. I mean, she's a Group 1 mare on her day, as she proved when she won at Longchamp last season. And then she finished second, scores Don Juan Triumphant when she was heavily backed when dropping back down in trips. She's probably best at 7 furlongs. They have tried her over a mile. They tried her in the Farmer Stakes, didn't they? Abigail and Nazif. Ideally, I think a well-run 7 furlongs with ease in the ground is her absolute optimum. So the only question mark I would have with her regarding her chance at a short price would be if the weather continues to dry out as the week progresses. If the race was today and Wednesday as we speak, good to soft in places would be absolutely fine for her. I'd make a very strong bet at the price, but it could easily dry out to sort of good to firm in places come Friday if that weather forecast is correct. I'm sure you down in London, Georgia, topping up on your suntan cream in the next few days.
Out on the golf course on Friday.
Well, I should put a hat on or a sombrero on just in case, because it's going to be sort of 30 odd degrees, and that would be my only concern. Look, ability wise, she's head and shoulders above this lot. I think Athika is definitely one to mention. She won't mind the ground if it does dry out. She was a good winner at Deauville last time out. Her form ties in with quite a few of these. I think she's definitely up to the standard of a sort of listed pattern race. She was third behind Under the Stars the time before in a similar event. And she's bagged a decent draw as well in stall 7. Incidentally, One Master's gone and drawn stall 1, which is obviously very favourable for her. But I think if you're looking for an each-way alternative beyond the Fav, if it does dry out, then maybe Athika ticks that particular box.
So 2-1 One Master, the rightful favourite according to Andy, but worth keeping an eye on that weather. I wouldn't keep an eye out for me playing golf in a sombrero. I don't think that's going to happen. Big price that one, but I'll take your advice with the cap. Althika 8-1 best price at the moment with Bet Victor. So those are the two pronged approach, let's say, for Andy there. On now to the 2:15, the Bonham Stakes, the over a mile, the Group 3, and we have an odds-on favourite for this 5-runner affair. Calusi is the 4-5 favourite with William Hill already blue on oddschecker. So I think they must have opened up a little bit bigger. Somebody has been waiting to pounce and snaffled that 5-6. Both Bet Victor and Unibet go 8-13. So possibly still a bit of juice in that 4-5. My Oberon is 7-2, second favourite. Tilsit 9-2, 14-1 Mystery Power, and 16-1 Repartee. Odds on Jolly, Backer or Allaire, Andy?
Well, I think I've got 2 half-decent horses running for me here, so I'd probably be Allaire at the price. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. I mean, it was one of the most striking winners of the entire week, wasn't it? Yeah. It was a good Britannia this year. I think there was lots of depth to it, even though we'd only got sort of one bits and pieces of form line going into it in the build-up. A lot of them have run to a fair level, and this horse was backed as if defeat was out of the question. I think it went off 9-2 from double-figure prices in the morning. Came with a withering run up the stand-side rail, which arguably wasn't favoured on the day anyway, given the horses where the horses attack from. And he absolutely striped him, didn't he? So much so the handicapper didn't miss him, put him up a whopping £15. So handicaps are very much out of the equation now. He's gone up to 111. But you look at the horses that run out of it so far. Finest Sound, he's run well since. Cherokee Trail, Enemy. We get to see Toro strike the 5th horse. Incidentally, a horse I've tipped on the Wednesday as we speak. He runs in the last race. Ashahi, who went on to win at Sandown. You name it, you can go all the way down the list. There's been loads of horses that run well. So the time figure was very good. It's one of those races where you upgrade it as a group race rather than a handicap. And he's very much the one to beat because he sets a good standard on that. But from a man who does times as well, I was also very, very taken with my Oberon's win at York the other day. Now, he's a different kettle of fish because he comes from a totally different route. He hasn't had that hard-knocking background of a big field handicap to run against. We've only seen him twice. He was very much in need of the run first time out at Newmarket beyond Sunray Major. He didn't handle the dip for me that day. He was rolling around a little bit, but he was looked after. And then he went to York and he was absolutely smashed up in the betting. I think he went off odds on in the end. Which I thought at the time looked a strange price considering he was only 5th in an average maiden. But boy, oh boy, did the guys who backed him knew what they were doing. I mean, this guy completely and utterly obliterated his field. But the turn of foot he showed from 2 out was staggering. And it was on the day where there's some good guidelines. And I got this horse running by far and away the best 5 furlong stroke 3 furlong split. I did it from 2 points at York. And he was like 3 or 4 lengths or even further clear of everything else on the card, including the sprinters. And I thought, wow, this lad is definitely a group horse in the making. Straight away, Haggis has thought exactly the same thing. He hasn't bothered about handicaps for mark 101. He's thinking, right, I've got a group horse here. I'm going to pitch him in against whoever wants to take him on. And I think it's going to be a really good match between the two, Calusi and My Oberon. I see they've gone 7-2, My Oberon, and at the prices, I'd be more keen to have a crack at him and hope he's their level of Calusi rather than back Calusi, we know was already at that standard at 4-5, 4-6.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, given a mark of 101 after a disappointing debut performance just shows the quality of that win at York. What about Tilsit? You said you had 2 running for you here. What do you make of Tilsit's chances for Charlie Hills?
Yeah, he bumped into a good horse first time out, Al Salt. We'll talk about him later on the podcast. He's gone the right way, and I think he won by 19 lengths last time out at Newcastle. Again, his 2 time figures have been very good, and he looks classy as well. He's got a rating of 98, which might even underestimate his quality. So the 2 horses who have gone down the novice stakes route, who've been hugely impressive visually on the figures, are definitely going to give Calusi plenty to think about here. That's why I don't think this race is as straightforward as what the bookmakers have said. I'm not sure what price they'd be prepared to lay Calusi at. But I think if I was a layer going there on Friday with a normal crowd, I'd be thinking, I want to try and get this one in the hod because I've got 2 genuine potential top-class performers running for me, not just any Mickey Mouse one. So I'm really fascinated by this race. You're probably thinking, well, we're not going to be talking great depth about this 5-runner field, but for me, this is the most exciting race on the card.
Brilliant. I had to double check when you said 19 lengths. I was like, I'm going to have to check that just to see if Andy's had a slip of the tongue there. And I do remember the race now as well, back in the market last month. Absolutely extraordinary. I mean, it went off 4-11, but I'm not sure even 4-11 shots are meant to win by 19. And certainly listening to your reasoning there, you'd be a brave man, as good as and impressive as Calusi was. I wonder if just because Calusi was so visually impressive, that plays into the price here. When actually, that was in a handicap when, quite clearly his mark was totally wrong, coming up against 2 horses here who could really serve it up. So I'm agreeing with you, Andy, as ever. I mean, I would never doubt you, but certainly that price does seem a little bit on the short side. And you can see, interestingly, since we've been talking, Paddy Power have opened up, and Calusi 11-10, and My Oberon 11-4, and Tilsit 15-4. So taking a big view alongside what you've said, Andy. I don't know if there's somebody in here or listening to what you're saying, but certainly that market looks like it could change a fair bit.
Absolutely, George. Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head. It's a difficult one for firms to price up. They're pricing up on ratings here, aren't they? This is a classic ratings price up where they've seen 111 against a 98 and 101, and they're thinking, well, okay, won the Britannia, everyone knows the form's good, right, odds on. But for those who do time figures, like I say, I'm not even looking at the ratings here. They mean nothing because I know this My Oberon and Tills are better than what they've already achieved. The handicap has got to give them something, and he's given something useful, but he hasn't probably gone high enough to match what they're capable of perhaps in the future. That 11-10 will definitely get taken by whoever will look at this grid and think, oh, he's 8-13 with Victor Chandler. I'll take the 11-10. That's got to be a Rick. When in truth, Paddy Power absolutely spot on here. The Ricks are the other 2.
Yeah.
The other 2 look out of line at 7-2, 9-2 respectively. And I think Paddy Power have definitely got this race chalked up how I'd have it. I'd be more keen to lay Calusi. I certainly wouldn't mind laying him at 8-13, by the way. Now I've seen the 11-10. But you get where I'm coming from. Before I saw that price, it didn't look a very solid odds-on shot.
There you have it. So if there are any of that 7-2 and 9-2 about My Oberon and Tilsit still knocking around, looks like a good way of taking on the jolly. On now to the Golden Mile, over, surprisingly, a mile, where we have Montatham is the 6-1 favourite. Sabuska, a horse that I know we've spoken about a couple of times in the last week or so, Andy, is 7-1. Prompting 7-1. Cliffs of Capri 8-1, which you tipped up coming in second over the weekend. Card Sharp 9-1. Vale of Kent 11-1. As ever, a pretty stellar field for a handicap here. Andy, we'll start with the top 2 in the market, 2 who've put in some pretty striking performances recently in Montatham and Sabuska.
Yeah, these are the 2 that I'd concentrate on here. I think again they're already proven that they could possibly be capable of running in or outside of handicap company. Their form's worked out incredibly well. They're well drawn. Well, one of them's well drawn, the other one not so much. Montatham, that probably puts a fork in his chances at 7-2. But at least we have only got 15 runners here instead of the normal 20 odd or 21, 22, which we've had in recent times. So, if Crowley can drop him in and give him a chance and come around the outside, he has got the turn of foot that might be able to get himself out of a hole. But I do like Sabuska. I mean, the one thing about Sabuska, which he's got in his favour, is he's his course winner. I think he won over 7 furlongs here last year, so he's got plenty of tactical speed. He's winning the consolation race on the day when, of course, Montatham got beat by Dark Vision in the main race. Both of the two time figures were almost identical. The sectional, the splits, everything about both races were almost the same. And the form of both races have worked out incredibly well. Of course, Alternative Factor's already come out and boosted the Sabuska form. Sabuska himself has gone on to finish second in the Bunbury Cup. Over a trip in the end, ultimately, was just a little bit too short for him, but he was punning in the big yards at the end. He only went down by half a length. He would have won with perhaps another 50, 100 yards. He is an archetypal miler that wants a strong pace, wants covering up and then brought with a run. If he gets a clear run through, it's hard to see Sabuska not finishing in the first three here. He hardly ever runs a bad race. As I said, he's got track form. He won't mind the quick ground. So yeah, with Oisin on, I'll be blasting into him if firms are offering 4 or 5 places on the day. I think he's still improving as well.
So yeah, currently 4 places and best price with Bet Victor 7-1 and a fifth the 4. Sabuska a bit of blue with William Hill into 13-2. So other people clearly agreeing. Any others to make? I know you said you want to focus on the top 2 in the market, but any others to just to flag up down the list?
Yeah, I think you've got to give Prompting a bit of a shout right down the bottom. I mean, he's got in here after a win the other day at York. He's clearly improving at rapid rate of knots. I think he was with Ollie Murphy, wasn't he, a few starts ago? But now he's gone with David O'Mara. He looks as though he's improved out of all recognition. The penalty he received for winning at York the other day at least guarantees him a run and gets him in here. We haven't. I don't think we've got to his full capabilities yet. A lot of these are quite exposed. The likes of Blown by Wind, Bless Him, Afar, Card Sharp. That we know where we stand with them. Even Cliffs of Capri to a degree, who's definitely better at Ascot. They're not going to improve. They're just going to run their races. Whereas the ones I mentioned, Moatham, Sabuska, and this one in particular is still on the way up. So we don't really know, like I say, where their ceiling is. So you've got to mention him, and double figure odds 12-1 doesn't look a bad shout for him outside the front 2.
7-1 now, Prompting.
7-1. Sorry, yeah.
That's.
I was looking at history really because when I clicked on the page and the prices, the best prices on the right hand side, they've obviously updated courtesy of 1 or 2 withdrawals.
Exactly, indeed. So the main 3 there, take your pick of them. Montatham 6-1, Sabuska 7-1, and Prompting 7-1. I think we can say that Andy expects the winner to come out of those 3. We've had a few of these conversations recently where they don't look like great betting heats, and it's fair to say that the same can probably be said of the Qatar Stakes. They're over 5 furlongs, where Battaash is the very hot 2-5 favourite. Liberty Beach 13-2. Glass Slippers 8-1, Ken Colt 16-1, Alrea 18-1, 25-1 to Buy Station, and Ornate 80-1. We've spoken about the King George with Enable recently. We said it was hard to really take her on. We spoke about Stradivarius and said that while Santiago provided some threat, it was hard to really take him on. Both won. Is it going to be the same story with Battaash here?
I'd say so, yeah. I mean, we know he's the best horse in the world, don't we? He has been for a little while. When he's on his A game, yes, it's always possible with a horse like him to run a bad one. He's thrown it in before, but there have been mitigating circumstances. You can almost see them coming. His defeat in the L'Abbaye last year was at the end of a hard season. It was on soft ground. But when he's fresh, and he hasn't run since 45 days, of course, when he won at Royal Ascot, the King's Stand, he's just a sight to behold. He's almost like a cash machine, isn't he? You can. He's like Stradivarius. You might look to get him beat, but there's always, there's never anything really there. The only thing that'll be getting beat is himself, ability-wise, and none of these are good enough to beat him. We know that. He's proven that in the past. So if you are going to have a little wager here, a little tickle on something, perhaps Liberty Beach looks the obvious in the without the favourite market. You might get odds against her rather than take a wild price about Battaash. She had a go with him in the King's Stand and obviously came out third best that day when 2.5 lengths behind the winner. But she didn't get beat too far. It wasn't like she got absolutely completely striped. And then at Sandow, she travelled like the Wrath of God in that Group 3 contest. She was beaten by Al Ali, but the time figure I got for that race was right up there with the best 5 furlong sprint races so far this season. And Al Ali went to the Curry next time out and vindicated that form line by winning against the bias. He came up the stand side rail when all the action took place on the far side. So I think Al Ali's definitely a contender when they go to York for the Nunthorpe, because he's obviously very quick over 5 furlongs. And you'd certainly put Liberty Beach in that bracket. She travelled all over him in that race, but she hit the front too soon. I think they might just ride John Quinn's filly a little bit differently, i.e. give her a little bit more of a chance and drop her in and let her come through rather than try and chase Battaash from the start and get her involved in the heat of the battle. That would be the only way they'll get a positive result out of her. And I think they might just ride her to finish second, thinking, well, we can't beat Battaash, but there's a decent amount of chunk of prize money for second. It's 20 odd grand, 26 grand for second. And I think if they go out and ride her with that in mind, then she probably might chase the favourite home.
Liberty Beach 13-2 across the board, but only 7 runners. So if you're wondering why Andy isn't tipping up an each way bet here, only 2 places. So be wary. But I'm sure on the day there will be a without Battaash market. There'll probably be a Liberty Beach glass slippers match bet as well, which given the current prices will be around about Pickham, the 2. So Liberty Beach, the one to side with, but Battaash we are expecting to go in at a short price, heavily odds on. On to the Group 3 afterwards now, and the Queen's Plate run over 1.5 miles, and Communique is the 9-4 favourite ahead of Desert Encounter. Pablo Escobar 5-1, Alunak 5-1, 18-1 bar. It looks, again, just 7 runners, but it looks like a race that's going to be contested between the top 4, it's fair to say.
Yeah, this is a belter as well. A lot depends how this race pans out. You've got 3 horses, to my reckoning, that want to make the running: Communique, Spirit of Appin and Pablo Escobar. Now, if they decided to change the tactics on Pablo Escobar, just give him a chance, then I'd think, I certainly think he's good enough to win this race, because that race he ran last time at Newbury was a sensational one. He got beat 2 lengths at the end, but I think he got beat by a very good horse, that Global Giant, who ran in a good Group 3 race the time before that included Aspetar, who of course won at York on Saturday. I think that form line is really good. And, he, like I say, he went a real proper lick the other day at Newbury. Tried to stretch the favourite, and the favourite did really well to win that Global Giant. I think he's a horse on the up. I think he could potentially be a Group 3, Group 2 horse in time. And this horse is probably not quite that level. He's probably listed Group 3 standard, but he has run well virtually on every start in his life. He's also run well here on his 2 visits to Goodwood. He finished second on his first run beyond line of duty, and then he won next time out over 1.25 miles. That was when he got off the mark in a maiden. But largely speaking, he's run his race, and like I say, I think if he just got a lead, if connection started, okay, right, we'll just allow him, give him a chance, and get a lung of breath into his lungs, then. He'd have a chance of seeing it out, because I just think trying to go from the front all the time, and he's just setting it up for the rest.
So Pablo Escobar 5-1 there. Any others? What do you make of Communique, the favourite here? Rightful fav?
Yeah, he's honest. He's genuine. He loves it here at Goodwood. The Johnson horse has always got to be respected. I thought he plugged on quite nicely the day beyond Eagles by day. He saw off the rest. He's just in great form. He's run the time before when. He had some good horses behind him, behind Dame Malleus at Newmarket. Suggests he's still on his A game, and he's never one to sort of roll out as you communicate. He'll always give it his all, like a lot of the Johnson horses, and quite rightly, he's right there at the top of the market.
Anything else to add on the other 2 main players, Desert Encounter and Alunak?
Well, Desert Encounter is going to be held up. He's going to be hostage to fortune. He'll want a strongly run race, which he's likely to get. He's form times with Communique. The one thing with Desert Encounter, he'll like the ground if it dries out. It was soft the other day at Newmarket, which he didn't appreciate. And Alunak, that Balding stable's just gone a little bit quiet. They had a really good start to the season, but I don't know if you noticed, just not quite running as well as they were early on. And based on the Newmarket run behind Communique, of course, beyond Dave Elliott, he would have a little bit to find. Of course, if the Fanny Logan form resurfaces, then all well and good. But the combination of having a bit to find in that Newmarket form and some of the Balding horses not being quite as strong as they were in the early part of since lockdown, I'd probably pass him over.
So Pablo Escobar, the selection there at 5-1. Again,
Yep.
Another race where, looking at the oddschecker app, you'll see how big the price differences are between some. Pablo Escobar 5-1 with Bet Victor, but Paddy Power and Betfair Sportsbook go 130. Andy, are you doing prices for Paddies? Because it seems to be agreeing with a lot of what you're saying.
Well, no, I think to be honest, you've highlighted a really good strategy. If you're looking 3 days in advance, and a lot of the bookmakers are just adjusting their books and not really looking over the shoulder and seeing what's he doing, you can get some cracking value at the moment. For Friday and Saturday, at least you'll be ahead of the game with the price. I'm not saying you'll back every winner, but you might get 5-1 about a 3-1 shot. And some nice each way value, like we've highlighted, perhaps for Sabusco. I think he'll go off nearly favourite, by the way, because now what they've done there, they've adjusted the price for some, but they haven't taken into account that Montatham's gone and bagged the outside draw.
Yeah.
So even though he's shortened up, gone in, because of the draw, I think he should have gone out.
Yeah.
Whereas Sabusco should have gone in. So I don't think they've tweaked it enough yet. But the market will readjust itself by race time.
Act fast, and that 5-1 best price with Genting Bet and Bet Victor for Pablo Escobar. The last 2 races of the day, I don't think there are prices up at the moment, but we'll do what we normally do, just have a look through the runners and see if any should be flagged up. We've got the Nursery at 420 over 6 furlongs, 8 runners as it stands. Do any of these look particularly well handicapped to you?
Yeah, well, I think the golden nugget here of back in top weight in the Nursery is never more relevant here with Zamani, because I do think this is a weak Nursery, George. The fact that the bottom one, Risque, is only rated 68 tells you all you need to know. It was a very slow time as well. Marcus Dragoni's horse, Perotti, when he won here last time out over the course and distance. So I wouldn't really want to be looking to back him in a rush. But that Zamani comes out of all the best races. 5th on debut in that Eye of Heaven race, which has chucked up loads of winners. He got beat by Twassell next time out, who went on to win the Woodcote. And then he lowered the colours on some good horses at Windsor next time out in a very fast time. He's a quick action horse. He likes fast ground. The Crisford horse is in good form. And I just think he's a cut above this lot. So I'd expect him to justify his top weight bracket. Do
we reckon pretty short price, Fav, do you think?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, I haven't chalked up. I haven't seen prices. I'd be 6-4, 7-4 if you gave me a tissue in front of me. If he's bigger than that, then I think that's value.
So there you go. Look for anything bigger than 6, 7 and 4 about Zamani. And the last race of the day is the Maiden Fillies over 6 furlongs. Again, we have 11 runners here. Any that you're going to be kind of awaiting the prices with anticipation?
I thought Rhythm ran quite well on debut. We'll get a chance to see that form now because Miss Jingles, the winner, runs as I'm speaking now on the Wednesday in a 5-runner race. But he missed a break. He was towards the back, but I noticed him making some good late headwind in a race that was quite good on the figures. And he's gone and bagged a good draw as well, still 10. So I'll be quite keen on him. And those Hannon horses are taking a huge step forward first time to second. So that's another important factor. And Ryan Moore's been booked as well.
Rhythm there in the last race of the day. Hopefully, Andy, going to be getting in some good rhythm today at Goodwood, but we are previewing the Friday. And before I let you go, just going to ask you what your best bet of the races we've covered today would be at the prices currently. Which, if you could just back one of them, who would you choose?
I'd probably choose 2, if that's all right. 1 win, 1 each way. Can I allow that?
Yeah, that's fine.
I'd say Sabusca each way would be my banker for the frame. That's 7-1. I don't think it'll last long, 4 places. And my Oberon at 7-2, if you could get that as well. I think he'll probably be 5-2, 9-4 on the day.
There you have it. 2 to go to battle with. Thank you very much, Andy, as ever, for joining us on the Oddschecker podcast. And before we do go, make sure that you download the Oddschecker app for all the best prices, all the best bookie offers, all the best free bets, and the very best tipsters. Andy's tips every single morning straight to the app around about 9 o'clock. And there's nowhere better to get them and to get on as well. Thanks again to Andy, and make sure you enjoy the racing. Hopefully a couple of winners in there, but crucially, please make sure you do gamble responsibly.